Hello everyone, my name is Razil Fauzan and welcome to my channel again. I'm gonna talking about the story of English literature, and then in this section special for you I would like to explain about modernism era, which is as we know uh, where the modernism is began in our life. Well, let's check it out. Well, yeah, I would like to explain to you firstly about the definition of modernism. Well, modern period in English literature began with the 20th century and remained until 1965. The period saw an abrupt break away from the old ways of interacting with the world in all the previous period experimentation, and then the individualism were highly discouraged, but with the onset of the modern period, both these things became virtuous. Okay. And then there were many culture shock with the beginning of modernism. The below of the modern age were the World War One and Two. These wars began in the year of 1914 and last till 1919, and then 1939 to 1945 respectively, evident on the face of every citizen. Feeling of uncertainty was spread, and no one knew where the world was heading into. And then, in this period, in its genesis, the modern period in English literature was first and foremost of visceral reaction against the Victorian culture and aesthetic. Well, which had privilege for most of the 19th centuries indeed. Um, a brick with tradition is one of fundamental constant of the modern stance. Intellectual and artists at the turn of 20th centuries believed the previous generation way of doing things was a culture dead end. They could foresee that war even was spilling into unknown territory. Characteristic in this era. Well, I would like to explain to you firstly what's the situation in the modernism era. Modernism marks as a strong and intentional break with the tradition, and it also related to politics, religions, and others, but true modernism becomes prominent after traditionalism. So knowing the differences between these two ism or ideology is important. Traditionalism, which is based on the tradition, is the dominant way of life. And then there are always predetermined rules explanation for people and their life. Traditionalism objective in another important point in traditionalism, there is one third truth for everything in traditionalism. High class people are more important than middle or lower class, but people in traditionalism because it gives importance for elevated style. On the other hand, as a modernism is a break with tradition. So this break includes a strong reaction against established religions, political and social views. According to the modernism, there is no such a thing as absolute truth. All things are relative, and other things were in traditionalism objectives is an important point. Modernism gives importance to subjectivism. And then the championship of the individual to the celebration of inner strength is one of the most prominent characteristic of modernism. And this regard or symbolize it differs from realism. This is inner strength of the individual is expressed through for literary ideology, subjectivism, impressionism, expressionism, and surrealism. Realism attempts to portray external objects and even as the common or the middle class people see them in everyday life. Impressionism tries to portray the psychological impression that these objects and events makes character, emphasizing the role of individual perception and exploring the nature of conscious and subconscious mind. Well, after I'm talking about the characteristic in this era, now I would like to explain to you the characteristic about the literature, the work or the literary work in this era. The following are characteristic of modernism. In modernism itself, the literature marked by a strong and intentional break with the tradition. This is break includes strong reactions against established religious, political, and social faith, as I said before about the era. And then it's consigned in the work, in the literary work that the people in that era made. Well, the second one believe that the word is created in the act of perceiving it. That is, the word is what we say it is. And then the next one is there is no such thing as an absolute truth. All things are relative. No connection with history or intuition. Their experience is that of alienation, loss, and despair. And then the last one, sorry, the next one, championship of the individual and celebration of inner strength life in unadulterated, concerned with the subconscious. Now, I would like to explain to you about the example of literary work in this in modernism era. Well, I found this masterpiece. The title is Sons and the Lovers. This is masterpiece of D.H. Lawrence in English and an English author of novels, short stories, poem, plays, essays, travel books, and letters. So his novel in this title, Son and Lovers in the 1913, The Rainbows in the 1915, and The Woman in the Love in the 1920, made him one of the most influential English writers of the modernism era. So Lawrence is the most famous people in that era who's write the novels as a concern modernism. Well, after I explained you about the characteristic, the definition, the characteristic of the work, and then I show you the example of literary work in the modernism. So I got a lesson learned from this material after I research. So English literature of modern age started with the initiation of the 20th century. So the prominent feature of literature during the modern age was the opposite of the general attitude towards life as we show in the Victorian literature. So people in this era started regard Victorian as a hypocritical age, having superficial and mean idols. So hypocrisy of Victorian period generated a rebellious attitude in the writers of modern literature. Things that were considered as a beautiful and noble during Victorian age was considered as ugly by the writers of modern period. Sense of questioning was absent in the mind of the people from the Victorian age. During Victorian age or Victorian times, people were to the voice of the people who were in power. They accepted the rules, made the church. People started to accept the law without questioning them, but the generation came after were having critical thinking. They raised question against the decision produced by supreme authorities or the higher authorities. Writers of modern age reviewed the ideas and belief of previous era. And then also in this modern age helped in replacing the simple belief of the Victorian into modern man's desire to probe George Bernard Shaw attack the old superstitious religion beliefs, as well as the superstition of science. He was the one of the pioneer the interrogative habits in the middle of modern people. Shaw openly challenged the voice of the who were ruling the country and the religion's authority. He provoked the people to come up with the questions over the morality and religion. Well, that's all my presentation today. Thank you so much for watching my video and listening my materials, and of course you if you're paying attention carefully to my presentation and material, I would like to say a lot of thank you for you after watching my video. Thank you so much and goodbye.